Greetings and welcome to the Fan Perspective. I'm your host Nathan Al. In this, I'm continuing my coverage of the 2015 NBA playoffs, and I'm going to recap the first round matchup between two Western Conference teams, the number 3 seed Los Angeles Clippers and the number 6 seed San Antonio Spurs. Game 1 in LA, the Clippers got out to a great start, were able to take the Spurs out of their game, took a big lead early on. In the second quarter, the Spurs came surging right back, but in the third quarter, the Spurs could not make a shot to save their life. The Clippers started breaking away, and for the first time in 3 years, the Spurs actually lost Game 1 of a playoff series. The Clippers win that game 107-92. And just to make sure you understand just how many shots the Spurs missed, they had 92 points on 93 field goal attempts. So yeah, that wasn't a good game for them. Game 2, Spurs played much better on both sides of the ball. It was pretty much an even matchup. The Spurs were holding the slight edge through most of the game, but both teams were able to make their runs. Neither squad was really able to take control, and the game went into overtime. Blake Griffin had a triple-double, but it just wasn't enough as the Spurs were able to still win in LA, winning 111-107. Game 3, the series goes back to San Antonio. Kawhi Leonard receives his Defensive Player of the Year trophy, and the Spurs are in control from the opening tip. They started breaking away in the second half, leading by double digits most of the third quarter, leading by 21 at the start of the fourth. Kawhi had his first ever 30-point game of his career, finishing with 32 on the night as the Spurs win 100-73. Then Game 4, the Clippers came out with some energy. They played very well, but all they could do was match the Spurs. The teams were going back and forth. The game stayed close the whole way. Neither team really took control, but the Clippers went into halftime with a 4-point lead, and the momentum kept swinging. There were 18 lead changes going into the fourth quarter. The Clippers started to break away, building up a 14-point lead. The Spurs, of course, they made their run trying to close the gap, but they just couldn't get enough stops. Blake Griffin came up big, 20 points, 19 rebounds, 7 assists. Clippers win Game 4, 114-105, tying up the series. Then in Game 5, back in LA again, the Clippers come out hot, leading by as many as 14 points in the first quarter. But the Spurs, of course, they made their run. They fought back into the game, and the momentum once again going back and forth. Blake Griffin went into halftime with 21 points and 7 rebounds, but LA only had a 1-point lead. They came out hot in the third and expanded that lead, but the Spurs started hacking Jordan, and the strategy worked. They took a 5-point lead, and the momentum kept swinging. Neither team could really take control until the fourth, when the Clippers started looking fatigued and the Spurs created some space. The Clippers made a run, closed that gap, but the Spurs were able to hold on. They had 6 players scoring in double figures as San Antonio was on to win this 111-107. Then in Game 6, coming back to San Antonio, the Clippers, they were facing elimination and they played like it. The game was even from the beginning, but the Spurs, they started hitting threes. They created a little separation, and then they started hacking to try and preserve their lead, but they stopped making shots, and the Clippers were still able to fight back and tie it going into halftime. Clippers came out in the third and took the lead, they held on to that lead until late in the third quarter when the Spurs started fighting back. They kept the game close but just never took the lead. 5 Clippers scored in double figures, including double-doubles from DJ, Griffin, and Paul, as the Clippers win 102-96, forcing a decisive Game 7, the only Game 7 in the first round. And in Game 7, do or die in LA, both teams played well from the start. They keep exchanging buckets, and that lead kept changing. The biggest story, though, CP3, he left in the first quarter. He was holding on to his hamstring, but he came back in the second quarter. He was obviously hobbled. Bad news for the Spurs, though. Chris Paul at 50% is still better than 80% of the guards in this league. So, in a Game 7 that saw 7 ties and 17 lead changes, the Clippers went into halftime with a 2-point lead. And in the second half, both teams made their runs. No one ever really took control, though. And this is what you expected from a Game 7. There were a total of 16 ties and 31 lead changes at the end of the fourth quarter. The Spurs had 5 players in double figures, including double-doubles from Duncan and Leonard. But the Clippers also had 5 people in double figures. DJ had a double-double, Blake Griffin had a triple-double, and Chris Paul had a game-high 27 points, including the game winner, as the Clippers win 111-109, and they advanced to the second round where they will face the Houston Rockets. And let me say a couple of things. I am a die-hard Spurs fan. I will always rep the black and silver. But you know, and I am upset. And it's just we've got 5 rings. We get to the playoffs every single year, but that's part of the reason it's so easy to be upset at losses like this, because you know, me personally, I've been watching them most of my life. Duncan was drafted when I was in elementary school, and you know, we've been to the playoffs 16 years in a row, and you know, we almost always get to the second round, like more than half the time. And so this was a tough loss to swallow. But then, and I'm going to cry myself to sleep tonight, I'll admit it. But then again, the Clippers deserve to win. They played very well, not just in Game 7, but throughout the entire series. You know, even when we were leading, it never really felt like we had it wrapped up. You know, the Clippers played very well. They simply outplayed us. That's all there is to it. So I'm not going to complain about anything, because the Clippers, they deserved to win. They played great. You know, congratulations to the Clippers organization. You know, Chris Paul, Blake Griffin. You know, these guys are playing phenomenal basketball right now. And I feel like if it was anyone but the Spurs, like, you know, I think the Spurs and Clippers should have both been in that top 4. This should have been a second round matchup. Because most of the other teams in the first round, the Clippers would have breezed past them. I mean, other than, of course, the Rockets and the Warriors, then I think the Clippers could have swept any of the other 4 teams that were in the playoffs right now. I mean, they're playing great basketball, so great luck to them. And no matter how many championships you win, it doesn't make the losses hurt any less. But still, I ain't mad though. I mean, like, good luck to Chris. I've been a huge fan of Chris Paul, no matter how many times we play against him. Still a huge fan of his. I'll always be a huge supporter. And like I said, good luck to them. And, you know, good luck trying to catch up, because we still got 5. I ain't even tripping, man.